everybody. We're like 20 days into the new year, but we're excited. We are here to talk about our favorite movies of 2017. And that's what I want to start off by saying is these are our favorite movies. We're not saying they're the best movies of the year. We're not saying that your list is wrong and our list is right. We're simply talking about our top 10s. And I know we're going to be respectful of each other's lists. So the first thing I want to ask is that don't comment and say, oh, you guys are wrong. This is the best movie of the year or whatever. Just share your list with us and we will look at it and yeah, we can have a good discussion, a good, healthy discussion.
Disclaimer, Yoga Hosers came out last year. That's why it's not on this year's list. So
yeah,
we'll just get that out of the way.
Yeah.
This is Spencer. I cut him off. He's a cinemaholic. I'm a cinemaholic. I'm Ryan.
I'm a cinemaholic as well. My name is Bella.
How do you guys want to do this? Same way?
Same way.
Yeah.
Okay, who wants to start?
I can start.
Okay.
So we'll start with our number 10s. My number 10 is Lady Bird. This is the Greta Gerwig written and directed movie starring Saoirse Ronan and Laurie Metcalf. I really love this movie, and the more I've watched it, the more I love it. I think that it is phenomenal, and I think anybody who has ever experienced growing up will like it. So check it out.
My number 10 is going to surprise you guys, I think. It wasn't on my top 10 until this morning. And I added it on there because I've been thinking about it. We saw Phantom Thread last night, and that's why we waited so long to do this, because we had a feeling that might make our list. And so this morning, as I was thinking about it and seeing if Phantom Thread fit in, I thought about the experience I had when I was watching Thelma. And I loved this movie, more than her for sure. I literally sat in the theater in awe, and I was just smiling during the credits. It was just such a unique, surprising, engaging experience for me. It's Norwegian. I didn't see any trailers. I didn't look anything up. I had just seen the poster, blindly walked into it, and was blown away. Really, really enjoyed it. And I think you'll have a similar one later on in your list, but I think that is one of the reasons why this movie was so good for me, was that I literally had no idea what to expect, and it blew me away.
Mm-hmm. My number 10 is The Florida Project. I love this movie. I love, like, I think it's amazing about childhood. Sorry, it's a hard word to say. And this movie just portrays what it's like to be a child, and like the things that you do, like the things that you, like how you play, and sometimes like we have problems with our families, and like it portrays all of that and how children react to those situations. And I love this movie. It's so brilliant and so real, so true. So I think it's brilliant.
My number 9 is a movie that Ryan was just referencing, that was one that I hadn't heard much about, and this movie was really high on my list, but I've really shifted things around in the past couple hours, in the past couple weeks actually, rewatching things, watching commentaries, etc., and that is Columbus, which is a movie written and directed by, I think his name is Kogonada. I probably pronounced that like a total fool. Some movies really profoundly move me, and this is one of those movies that I just found to be so emotionally powerful and so simple. This movie cannot have even had a $1 million budget, but the way it's shot, the performances, particularly from Haley Lou Richardson, who is somebody who I'd seen a couple things, but I'd never expected her or saw her as a leading person. Now I want to see her in like every movie ever. I love this movie.
My number 9 is going to be your number 10, Lady Bird. This one has for me what started off really high, and it's been shifted around quite a bit. But overall, I mean, we did go to the world premiere of this movie, and that is something within itself. But I did go and see it a second time, and it was even better the second time. And I think it's just a movie that so many people have connected to. And it's such an astonishing first directorial effort. So props to Greta Gerwig on that.
Oh yeah, my number 9 was Phantom Thread. And we watched that movie yesterday. And this movie just amazed me. It's so beautiful and the story is so amazing, so interesting, something that is new. Like, I've never seen something like that before. You know, like when you watch movies, a lot of times they're just the same story with different characters. This one for me was totally different, new, and amazing. And I love that it was set on the 1950s. So everything about this movie is really great. So I loved it.
My number 7... Eight is Dunkirk. Dunkirk is the Christopher Nolan war movie, of course, about the Dunkirk evacuation. It's incredible. It's a movie you experience. It's very visceral. On a technical level, I would say it's one of the best movies of the year. And it really, I thought, emotionally resonated with me in a really powerful and effective way.
That was a good one. My number 8 is The Florida Project. I had just looked at it, and then I was like, I'm going to remember, not look like a fool and look at my phone. But The Florida Project, for the same reasons that she said, it is such a charming look into these kids' lives. And it really, it is able to show you from their perspective that I, sitting there watching, was so nostalgic of my childhood. And I just thought back to all of these adventures that I went on. And the movie as well is very dramatic and very intense, and brings up a lot of issues that are very relevant and very important that I think we as America try to ignore and forget. You know, as human beings, we try and not look at things that come up and are addressed very well in this movie. Can't remember, what's the director's name?
Sean Baker.
Sean Baker. I follow him on Letterboxd. But he did Tangerine the year before, 2 years before. This was his second one, and it was phenomenal.
My number, is it 8, right?
Yep.
Yeah. My number 8 is Get Out. And I really like this movie. I wanted to put a horror movie on this list, and I wanted really to try to put like lots of different genres of movies in this list, so it could be more, you know, like could have like everyone likes different things. So I like this one. I really enjoyed Get Out, and we were watching a couple of days ago, and watching a second time, it made it even better. It was so thrilling, so amazing. I love the story, and it's so interesting, so good. I love this movie.
My number 7, got it right this time, is 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. This is the new Martin McDonagh movie, and the performances in this are great. I think that it's a movie that perfectly gives us a look and insight as to how America currently is, and I think that it does so in really fascinating ways. And I think the character work in this movie is particularly one of the reasons why I love it so much, as I do with all of Martin McDonagh's movies. I'd say this is right behind In Bruges on the list of favorite Martin McDonagh movies.
My number 7 is going to be The Big Sick, which was so surprising to me because we saw it at Sundance a year ago, and it just stuck with me. And it was so enjoyable and so funny, and the rewatchability on that is amazing. I think this year I've probably watched it 5 or 6 times. It's just such a funny movie that sticks with you, and it doesn't get less funny the more times you watch it. And it's got a lot of heart, and I'm a huge fan of Kumail, and I think this really is able to showcase all of his skills as an actor, as a comedian, as a writer. So,
My number 7 was 3 Billboards as well. And like Spencer was saying, it is amazing. I really enjoyed this movie. It brings up a lot of topics, important topics, and the way they portray everything, like the characters, and how it's a dark comedy that is really funny. I know I've heard there's been some backlash, I guess, that one of the characters is racist and all of that. I mean, which is true. I mean, they're saying the movie itself is racist, but I guess well, it's their opinion. I enjoyed it, and I think, I mean, it is on my list, so.
My number 6 is Get Out. And Get Out is a movie that, till just recently, was number 10 on my list. And it was there until I watched the commentary. And after I watched the commentary, my mind was completely blown. I think that this is one of the best directed movies of the year. I do think Jordan Peele should be nominated for Best Director. And I think that this movie is utterly brilliant. Like, I loved it to begin with, and now my respect has just simply grown for it. I think that it is an incredible movie-going experience.
What a year for first-time directors.
Yeah.
It is a phenomenal
Truly.
year. My number 6 is Baby Driver. As well, it's a fantastically directed movie, which is always expected now from Edgar Wright. I loved the way we talked about her on her worst of the year was Atomic Blonde, and I feel like Atomic Blonde was not good to me. It didn't make my worst list because there were some redeemable things for me, but the reason it wasn't as good as it could have been is because it kind of felt like a music video. It felt like action sequence, music video, action sequence, music video. And this could have fallen into that trap. But the way that this was edited, like all Edgar Wright movies, utilizing the music was just phenomenal. And it never fell into that trap of just feeling like a music video. But everything was so choreographed to the beat, and it is expertly done. And Christopher Plummer is my favorite part of that movie.
Okay,
That was good. That was a good joke.
I just came up with it.
My number 6 is Paddington 2. I can't... I'm not going to say I can't with this movie, but it's the cutest movie ever. It's so charming, so cute, so amazing, and I love the story. It's so happy. I cried twice, which I don't do that usually in movies. So this one, like, I was really emotional watching this movie, and it's just cute and cute story. I love it.
Rotten Tomatoes posted yesterday saying that it had just become the most well-reviewed movie.
Stay tuned for my best of 2018 list next year for Paddington 2, because I count that as a 2018 release. But my number, what are we, 5?
5.
Five. My number 5 is Star Wars The Last Jedi. And this is a movie that you want to talk about some backlash. Like, Three Billboards, has some backlash to it, and it's getting more of an Oscar run. But Last Jedi is a movie that I unapologetically love. I think it's an excellent Star Wars movie, and not just an excellent Star Wars movie, I think it's a great film as well. I really love what Rian Johnson did. It's a very cerebral movie. It's a movie that takes risks, and to me, the risks completely and totally paid off. I think the performances are great, the action's great, everything about Star Wars The Last Jedi is great, in my opinion.
That's my 5 as well. I adore and love this movie. It is up there in my... I still haven't decided, but it's in my top 3 favorite Star Wars movies for sure. Like he said, the filmmaking is just outrageously good, and it's so bold. You talk about in the worst of, you talked about The Greatest Showman, and this is like the exact opposite. Critics have really liked this movie, but the audience, for some reason, has created this big backlash, where for The Greatest Showman, it's the exact opposite. The critics are like, meh. But then everyone is like ridiculously in love with that movie. I unashamedly loved Star Wars The Last Jedi.
It's interesting because I just realized, and I really just realized, that I didn't put The Last Jedi on my list up top 10, but I don't want to have a top 11, so that would be on honorable mentions.
Yeah, we'll go down to our 2, and
So
before
I'd say
we do
1, let's do honorable mentions,
Yes.
because I do have some.
Okay, so my number 5 is The Big Sick, and when I first watched it, it was really funny, but there were some moments where I was like, oh, okay, that's funny, but it's not like a movie that I'm gonna watch it again. And then I start watching again and again and again, and then I can't stop watching it. And there was a moment, like a month ago, I think, that I watched that movie every single day of the week. And then I made my parents watch it, and yeah. I'm not kidding, really. And yeah, so it's definitely one of my favorites now, and it's just amazing. I love Kumail. He's awesome. I was watching a TV show, and he was in one of the episodes, and I was like, oh, that's so awesome. And I told Ryan, I'm kind of obsessed with Kumail now. It's so funny. It's amazing. It's great.
So my number 4 is The Florida Project. And this is another one that's really climbed my list, but the more I think about this movie, the more I appreciate it, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think that Brooklyn Prince should honestly win the Oscar for Best Actress, even though Frances McDormand was great in Three Billboards and Sally Hawkins is incredible in The Shape of Water. I think Brooklyn Prince carries the movie on her shoulders in a way that the other two, there are other aspects to both The Shape of Water and Three Billboards that that add to the impact of the movie. And with The Florida Project, I mean, we got Willem Dafoe, but really the movie is all about Moni. And I really think what it's saying is incredibly important and timely about poverty and about people being raised in the crazy harsh environments. And I think the way that it never loses its kind of light touch of childhood and the magic of childhood, while at the same time having this contrast of this environment that these kids live in. It was a beautiful movie-going experience to me. There's one scene at the end that emotionally wrecked me, and I think that this is a wonderful movie that every person should watch.
My number 4 is The Phantom Thread, which we just watched last night. And to kind of prep for this, me and Spence have been going back over Paul Thomas Anderson's movies. And this is such a great culmination of his work, and really does showcase his ability to take the audience and place them inside the mind of the character. Daniel Day-Lewis is phenomenal, as well as the three main big hitters. I think they are all able to work off of each other so well. And people talk about Daniel Day-Lewis, that he's such a character actor and he transforms, he's a chameleon, which is so true, but I honestly found that to be a true statement about all three of the leads in this movie. They all had such unique characteristics and mannerisms that really sold me into this movie, and it was just funny and engaging, and it was able to address and handle really important things in a kind of satirical and non-whimsical kind of a way that really made you think about it at the end. And so blew me out of the water. My number 4.
Yeah, my number 4 is Call Me By Your Name. And this quickly became one of my favorites now. After watching it for the first time, last week, I think, we did a review for that. It just really amazed me of how beautiful and how true the story is, and it was just really amazing how they portrayed Italy, like you were saying. Like, Italy is beautiful, and that made it more beautiful. And the characters, I love the characters. They're so engaging, and they really feel so true, so real to me. I love their relationship, and I love that it's about family. And one of my favorite things as well is when they're having dinner, because there are a lot of scenes that they're having dinner, and that shows just how important family is for them in that movie. So that really made me consider this movie one of my favorites.
My number 3 is David Lowery's A Ghost Story. This is a movie that I think is a masterpiece. It's definitely my favorite thing he's done so far. And it's a movie that I have not been able to stop thinking about since we saw it at Sundance. And I think that it is an incredibly powerful, singular vision that tackles topics with hardly any dialogue and does so in a more powerful way than most movies do, with monologues upon monologues of detailed words. And yeah, this movie, the aspect ratio is interesting. It deals with tons of amazing concepts, and the way the movie views time really made me consider a lot of things about life and grief and loss and death. And I just think this is a beautiful movie. Also, the music is incredible in it.
That's my number 3 as well. And this is a movie that for the last year since Sundance I've been getting crap for, and I didn't rate it as high as everyone else coming out of that movie. But it has grown on me so much, and as soon as it came out on Blu-ray, I went through kind of a similar experience as her with The Big Sick. I put on the Blu-ray, and I literally just had it loop for about a week, and it was just like constantly playing on my Blu-ray player. And so as I walked in and out of my room or left for the day or came home, it just constantly was going, and that was such a fun, unique way to experience that movie, because it is all about time. And it was cool to be able to just kind of pop into this movie at different points of the movie and just kind of experience it like that. I think this 100% could have been a pretentious movie, but was handled so well that doesn't come across like that for me in any way. It screams artistic and creative. I can't say good enough things about this movie. It was great.
Yeah, my number 3 is Lady Bird. I think this movie is amazing, and I love Saoirse. She's so good in this movie, and I really liked her on Brooklyn. That movie was amazing, so this one made me more excited about because she was in it. And I love stories, like coming of age stories, and this one is so close to me, you know, and it's so beautiful and it's real. It talks about everything, like, I mean, coming of age, so really, and her relationship with her mom, it's so interesting to see, and a lot of people relate it to them. So I just think this movie was brilliant, and like you were saying, first time director, or first time like big movie, I would say. It's simply amazing. Greta was really smart and brilliant in this.
My number 2 is Phantom Thread, which is the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie. We just saw this last night, and at first I was really engaged and into it, and it probably still would have made my top 10, but then the second half comes along and made me reconsider the entire first half of the movie and the motivations of some of the characters within. And I think that this movie is brilliant in basically every way, shape, and form. I can't wait to watch it again.
My number 2 is The Shape of Water, which was my number 1 for a very long time. I love everything about this movie. It is a great callback and love letter to classic cinema. The way that Guillermo del Toro is able to handle the love relationship between a monster and a mute woman is so extraordinary, and only something that he could pull off. And keep the audience so invested in the whole story and in this relationship. And I think his ability to direct Sally Hawkins was phenomenal. Her performance was outrageously good. She only says a few lines in the whole movie, and it could be argued that she doesn't even say those, but whatever. She blows this movie out of the water. It's such a great experience that I've gone back and I've rewatched this movie 3 times in the theater, so it's definitely one, if you haven't seen, you owe it to yourself to go check out.
Yeah, my number 2 is Blade Runner 2049. And I watched it twice. When I first watched it, I was blown away by everything in this movie, the story, the cinematography, and performances were amazing, brilliant, and I really needed to watch it a second time, and it took me a long time, and then we finally decided to go, because I was like, right, I just wanted to go, and then we went to like a really far away theater, because it was the only place they were playing, and it was really worth it. I keep listening to the soundtrack of this movie, and it just gets better every time I hear it. I listen to it, and it's just so powerful, I think. And this movie was just brilliant. It was really close to my favorite, top, number one, but it didn't make it. It was so close, but it was, yeah.
So I'm gonna go over my honorable mentions real quick before we get into our number ones. And the first one, this is in the order of most heartbreaking to take off the list. So least heartbreaking, but still love this movie, is Call Me by Your Name. That's a movie that I really did like a lot, and I think that it is worth seeing. Number 2, Logan. Logan was an incredible movie that I really love. It's one of my favorite superhero movies ever made. It might even be my favorite superhero movie ever made. Baby Driver, great Edgar Wright movie that I really wanted to put on the list, just couldn't find the room. The Shape of Water, obviously they've talked about it. This movie's amazing. It just wasn't quite as good as Pan's Labyrinth for me, and I think that's why it didn't make my list. But then The Big Sick, which they've both talked about, it killed me to take this off the list. And the last one is Your Name. Your Name was a movie that I was dying to put on my list, and I couldn't find a place for it.
Do you want to go first? I'm still typing mine. I was unprepared.
Yeah, sure. So my honorable mention. So number 1 was Baby Driver, and I really wanted to put this on my list, but I just love this movie, and I keep watching it, like The Big Sick. I keep watching, every time I have a chance to watch it, I'll watch it, and like you said, Edgar Wright was so good in this movie. Directing this movie was amazing. I loved it. The second one is Wind River. And I really wanted to put this on my list as well. I wanted to put a lot of movies on my list, but this one was brilliant. I love this movie. And Mother as well.
Wait a second. It's Mother!
Yeah, it's a movie that I'll watch it again. And that's true. I
watched
enjoyed
it 3 times.
Did I only watch once? I don't remember. So. Yeah, I want to watch it again. I like those type of movies, and the baby didn't bother me. Anyway, the baby didn't
not at all. Strong stomach over here.
All right, I am just gonna.
I have one more.
Go for it.
The Darkest Hour.
Oh, Darkest Hour was good.
Yeah, one of the reasons is that I love history so much, and that a lot of people say, oh yeah, it's just put Dunkirk and A Darkest Hour together. That is true. Same story, different, not point of views, but different situations. As a soldier and as a prime minister of UK, but they're so different still. I wanted to put Dunkirk as well, but I didn't. But The Darkest Hour, it was just so amazing to me. I love when there are movies that portray the past and history and how important it is for people to see that kind of stuff, even if they don't read about any biographies or about people that changed the world. So I think this movie is amazing. Everyone has to watch it.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to quickly go through them. I've got Get Out, Dunkirk, Call Me by Your Name, Mother, Darkest Hour, and Thoroughbreds.
We have the same.
Which Thoroughbreds for me honestly would be in my top 5 still, except for it doesn't come out until next year, or 2018 this year. So I took it off the list for that reason, that I will consider it for 2018.
Yeah, dude, First Reformed would have been top 5 for me had that been a release this year. But my number 1, it's obvious. It's Blade Runner 2049. You can watch our review to hear my full thoughts on it. This movie is a masterpiece. It's one of the best sequels ever made. Watch it. It is so flipping good.
That's 2 years in a row. Denny's been your declared number 1. That is.
Wait, can I say something?
Yeah.
Manchester by the Sea is my favorite movie of 2016.
All right. Blade Runner's mine as well. Blew me away. I loved it the first time. And then I went back a few days later and saw it a second time. And then a few weeks later saw it a third time. And then bought it last week, or this week on Blu-ray and watched it again this week.
You didn't even invite me.
Holds up. So good. I apologize. I can't even explain. It is beautiful.
So my favorite of the year was The Shape of Water, and I think, like Ryan was saying, it was really a love letter to old cinema, and I think that's brilliant. I love that movie. I love everything about it, and yeah.
Yeah, we walked out of seeing that at Telluride, and I was like, this will probably be Bella's favorite
Oh, yeah.
of the year.
He did call it. And you know what we didn't say after The Shape of Water is we didn't say, hey man, was that racist? Like we did when we walked out of Downsizing. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching our favorite of 2017. Make sure to comment what your favorite movies of 2017 are. We'd be curious to hear. And we'll comment back, maybe, if we like your list. Just kidding. No. Yeah, just let us know what you thought of 2017. We think it was a pretty great year for movies. Anyways, guys, you can follow me on Twitter, Letterboxd, and Stardust at SpinnyHand.
Follow me at the same places at Rye_Gordon.
And you can follow me on Twitter at @BellaRomano_ and on Letterboxd and Stardust at BellaRomano.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you next year, which is this year.
Bye!